changes that we've seen to site actions, and mainly change the look. So there's been some really cool updates made to the change the look. So I want to talk about those, kind of go through, show you those, how they work, what what they're used for, and that kind of thing. And hopefully some of you guys have even had the chance to play with some of those things. And then what I want to do, and we did a session a couple of months back on site designs. And they haven't changed a ton, but there are a couple little things that have changed. So they've made a couple things, even with just the site actions change that they've done. Yeah, and I'm seeing some stuff here. So let me actually switch over to my screen. And I'm going to try doing this. Let's see. Let's see if we can go ahead and just get started. And I am seeing some messages that I'm buffering and stuff like that, so I'll try my best. Alright, so maybe that I'm not sending such a huge image across. Maybe this will be a little bit better. Alrighty, so wanted to talk about site actions, some of the updates that have been made there, as well as change look, and like I said, and then site designs. So I'll kind of start out with the change the look stuff, and then we'll dig into site designs a little. And I'm going to go through site designs again, similar to the way I did a couple of months ago, because I just think it's really helpful, and I think more people are probably going to be using it as these new features are coming out and stuff. So I would definitely want to just kind of go through the steps of creating it and what that looks like and how it works and some of the things to know. So we'll start with change the look. So I'm going to pull this up here. All right. And so let's see. All right. So what you may have noticed, there's a few things that have happened, just like these changes that have been pushed over the last like a few weeks. One thing is, I think this is even just last week, we have in our app launcher, and actually it looks like, no, I'm not seeing it. That's always the case. But the icons in the app launcher appear to be changing. So they mentioned that they were going to be changing the actual icons that we see. And it looks like those have actually updated, and it doesn't. I was seeing them yesterday. Of course, now I'm not seeing them. That's always the case. But yeah, so the icons, you'll notice that you might see that those have updated. Let's see. Hopefully, I'm still seeing the. Why is everything? Looks like my site, of course, now is reverted back somehow. So give me a second here. Just having all kinds of issues, buffering and everything. So let me see why it's suddenly reverted back. Give me 1 second. I'll just try to go in and create a new site real fast and see. Let's see. If this one doesn't work, then I'll just try. I have another tenant that I think it's in. This is the thing about demoing these new changes, right? They come and go. Just bear with me for a second. Trying to get a site created, and we'll see if it actually has the new stuff or if it reverted back as well. Go ahead and open up my other tenant while I'm doing that. Just in case. Yeah, so it looks like this entire tenant went back to the previous thing just since last night, so that's fun. So let me try another one. And you may not be seeing anything but just one screen. I'm on my other screen trying to pull this up. So if you're not seeing anything, that's why. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like all of my stuff reverted back, interesting enough. So when I go to, I have another completely separate tenant, and when I go to the site actions gear, I see the old site settings menu. So unfortunately, I guess I'm not going to be able to show you the new change the look. Let me see if I can just click on it if it actually has it. Okay, it does. Alright, cool. So we can actually do this then. Sorry, because it looks totally different. Let me see if it still does it here. Oh, Microsoft. And maybe there's... I thought that was actually pushed out to everyone, but maybe it's changed. Let's see if it actually does it here the way it's supposed to. Yeah, it looks like it does. Okay, so I think we can still do... Luckily, I still think we can demo that. The only thing... Okay. Alright, so... Sorry about that. Brief change. So basically, the site actions gear actually looked different for a few days. So that's something that I'll have to see if that's, now that I see my icons are also back to the old way, I'm wondering if the site actions menu is going to change to the thing that we had been seeing for a while there. So I guess we'll find out. But it looks like change the look settings, the new ones are there, so we can go ahead and chat about those. And then also site designs. There is a new site designs link here, and we're going to talk about that too. All right, so let's actually get into this. So change the look in the past, when we would click on this, it would just basically give us options for changing the theme. So changing the colors and that kind of thing. And they have actually, and some of this stuff we heard about before, but they have pushed an update to change the look that has a couple of different things. We see theme, which is what we're used to seeing here. We also have header, we have navigation, and we have footer. So these are some really, really cool features that I wanted to be sure to show you guys, and that are going to be, getting pushed more and more. So the first thing I want to do, let me see here. Yeah. So the theme, and this is something I wanted to kind of just mention anyway, even though this really hasn't changed too much since, over the last couple of months. But right here we have the different themes. There's the built-in themes here. If you were to customize a theme, and there is some information out there on how to do that. Basically, there's like a color palette thing, a tool that you can use that will spit out some JSON. And then similar to a site design, you load that in with PowerShell, and then you can kind of associate it to and create a theme from it. And then that would show up here as well as like a custom theme for your company. And that's a really neat tool because it really doesn't require someone who knows, actual like web design. It does require a little bit of technical knowledge, but you can kind of get in there and play with some of the colors and, put in the specific colors for your organization and that kind of thing, your brand colors, and really make something nice without having to have a lot of that like HTML, CSS knowledge and stuff that you would have in the past. So here we can go ahead and choose any of these themes, and the neat thing is we can actually customize these a little bit. So if I click gray here, and hopefully it plays along with me, I can see here it says customize, and I can go ahead and click on that. And I can actually have a couple of options for main color and accent color. And as you can see, there's not many here, but it is something. So if you don't have the ability to get into the actual tool to build something custom, then this is kind of a neat way to get in here and tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to hit cancel. I am going to switch it to a different theme. And I know I see people are saying that they don't actually have the new menu either. And so like I said, I think it's just one of these things where it's still kind of getting pushed out. So that's why yesterday I was seeing everything, all the new stuff. I actually can prove it because I did screenshots for our training. But I was seeing it yesterday and now I'm not seeing it. So I think it's just one of those things that's kind of just still getting pushed. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click gray here and apply. I'm going to apply the gray look. And then I'll go back. The next section here is the header. And also what I want to mention, and this is something that I haven't actually looked to see specifically what the differences are, but I did notice that some of these settings are, this is a communication site, and so I saw some of these settings for the communication site, but I don't think I saw all of them for a team site. So I think maybe it was navigation that was missing, maybe? I think just because team sites are kind of structured differently with navigation. So just to kind of keep in mind that, you may not see all 4 of these if you're in a team site. And like I said, sure, somebody out there might know exactly which ones aren't included with the team site, but I did see that there was some missing from a team site. But yeah, so header. So here with the header, we have standard, which is what we're used to, which is what you're seeing here on my screen. I can switch this to be compact, which kind of just shrinks it down a little bit, makes it take up a little less space. And then I can change my logo. So if I wanted to change my logo, I could do that. And then down here, I have the ability to change the background. And this actually used to be under the theme. You would actually click theme and then choose one and hit customize, and you would see this background option. But that's actually been moved here under header. So it's been in it, now it's its own place. So here I can click on these different ones, and you'll see kind of the ones in the middle are mostly just like gradients. So you'll see there's the white background, and then here kind of makes it a little bit darker and a little bit darker. And then here we actually have the full color. So if I click that, it switches it and it puts that on there. And I think that looks actually pretty nice. And that is the same color. It's tied to the main color of the theme that I chose. So if I was to go back and choose one of my favorite colors instead, so I'm going to make purple, you'll see that it changes that background color to purple. And I'll just go back to gray for now because it will look better with something I'm going to show. And it looks like Laura popped in to say hello. Hi, Laura. They are, looks like she says they're about to have dinner in Copenhagen. It's a little bit later there. So yeah, the header, basically I have the ability to go from standard to compact, put a logo in, and then adjust the background gradient there. So I can go ahead and apply that because I like the way that looks. And then next we have navigation. So this is probably the most exciting thing, I think, for many people that came out of this update. And they did talk about this a little bit at Ignite, and they mentioned that this was coming. So it's really cool to actually get to see how it functions and actually see it in action. So right now, if I look at my menu here, and this is specifically for a situation where I have like a drop-down structure. So here I have departments, and then here I can hover over these and I see the cascade of that. And even this, I think this is even slightly a little bit, the style here is a little bit different than it was before. It's a little bit more, it's a little bit neater. But that's pretty much what we're used to from the top level navigation. We've been able to do some version of this out of the box for a while, because even back in like SharePoint 2013, we could accomplish like a couple of cascading, navigation with the term store and stuff. So we've seen this a little bit. One thing that a lot of the people that do like the actual design for SharePoint, like actually create, in the past would create custom master pages and stuff, is they would get the request for a mega menu, which basically allows a hover and then it shows everything in that navigation. So it shows everything in a box. It makes it look really neat. So we would have that request even as a consultant. I've heard that many times, that people wanted that, and so they would spend all this extra money to get that created. And now they've actually built that in, so it's pretty neat. If I go ahead and click on Mega Menu, and then I'll just hit apply. Now, hopefully it plays with me. There it goes. So now when I hover over it, it switches me from that cascading thing that I'm used to now I see this mega menu. And like I said, you hover over it and you get to see everything. And it has the top level as a little bit larger, as like a heading, and then all the links that fall underneath that. And that's all still managed, like the links themselves are still managed just through the same edit that you're used to. And so I can go ahead and click edit here, and you guys can see how that structure looks. And basically you have the ability to, with these links, you can make them sublinks. So you can continue to create, the different headings and the sublinks and that kind of thing underneath these. And let's see. Yeah, I think I can't make that a sublink, but I think this one, yeah. But yeah, you can continue to build out that as you need to, and you can see it's as easy as switching that option to get that mega menu look on there. So it's a pretty neat feature, and it's something that I know a lot of people, especially with intranets, have needed this, right? Because a lot of companies that are larger do organize into they might not just have one list of departments. They have like this top level departments, and then each of those departments has some sub things underneath it. So kind of in the way that HubSites groups those things together, this kind of gives a nice, neat way to get the mega menu. And Lisa asked, does mega menu work well on phones? I actually have not tried it yet, so that's I will look at that later today to see kind of how that looks. I'm assuming they probably built it with that in mind, but it's definitely something we would want to check out, especially if we're going to have a larger mega menu. Like this one that I'm demoing is only, as you can see, 3 kind of blocks, but as we get larger, it'd be interesting to see how that looks. And actually, let's see. I'm gonna try. Oops. Refreshing here real quick. Everything is very slow because of this all the screen sharing I'm doing, so apologies for that. Alright, so let me go look at my edit here. I'm gonna see real quick if I add a couple more headings to this. I'm just kind of curious how it will function, and I'll just grab this link. And I'll just add another one. Let's see what's another big department. Let's just do. Oops. Just kind of curious how it pushes those out. So you can see it wraps it at a certain point, and I wonder if that's responsive. It looks like it is. So it is responsive, so that might mean that it is kind of set to work well on phones. And you'll see the way that I saw that was when I had it pulled over here and I hovered. You saw that IT was up here, and then as I kind of like scrolled my page down a little bit, you can see it kind of like pushes it together. So I'm assuming it's probably going to work okay on a phone or tablet, but definitely something we should test and find out. Alright, so that is the mega menu. Like I said, probably the most exciting thing that came out of this this push. I know people were really, really looking forward to that because, they definitely want that on their intranet type sites. Alright, so let's go back to change the look. And then next we have the footer. So with the footer, there's a couple things you can do. You can have the footer visibility on or off, so if you don't need it, you can turn it off. You can put a logo And then you can also put a name. And the logo and the name are going to appear to the far left of the footer. So obviously on a very long footer, those two things are going to be on the left with the icon, with the logo and then the name. And then you have the ability, which I think is really cool because once again, just like the mega menu, a lot of people would get a designer to come in to create a custom footer at the bottom of their intranet. And now you can actually do that yourself. So it obviously some of the look and feel of it, you have to. It's kind of kept to a minimum, but you do have the ability to add links to your footer, and that's something that a lot of people want on an intranet footer. So here I can go ahead and click Edit Footer Navigation Links, and it's going to look very similar to what I'm used to from editing the navigation. And then here I went ahead and added these in. So our company, our people, our customers, the help desk, Ask the CEO, so all those kind of things that you typically want to run throughout the intranet sites, you can go ahead and add that in. And then once I have that turned on and I hit apply, I can kind of scroll down and show you guys what that looks like. And I'll go back. And I'll just save to kind of make sure everything's good there. And I'll scroll down and zoom in a little bit. And hopefully you guys can see that. Hopefully you guys can see that down there at the bottom of my page. So here, obviously, I have the logo, the name, and then the links to specific things that I want to link them off to. So that footer is there at the bottom. And I'll kind of zoom back out. All right. Oh, the settings menu. Oh, so Zach says that he checked a few sites in his tenant, and the menu changes showing only when using the classic view as far as I could tell. Settings menu. That's interesting. Yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. Because like I said, yesterday it was showing up everywhere for me. Like I said, I was taking screenshots for one of our courses. And then today it's not. So as long as they change the looker options, that was really what I wanted to show you. The style of the site actions menu isn't gonna affect much, but that is interesting to know. And the funny thing is, and this is just something that you guys may have noticed, is that I feel like the new one, if it is the new one, is less stylized. I don't know if you guys agree with me on that or not, if you have seen it. It's a lot less stylized than the way that this one looks, so I'm kind of interested to see if, like, are we not seeing it now because they're changing their mind? Because the functionality is still there, the new features are still there. Yeah, and you can see there, Zach, that's exactly what I'm talking about, yeah. So you can see at the top part, like, because you're showing like the Office 365 settings at the bottom, and then the top part are like the SharePoint settings. Like I said, it's not very stylized, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, but that's what I was seeing everywhere yesterday. Alright, so that's pretty much it for Change the Look. Pretty straightforward and simple. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew what features were out there and kind of how they functioned and that kind of thing. So now what I want to do, I'm just going to check my notes real quick. Now what I want to do is go ahead and look at site designs again. I really enjoy site designs. I think that they are really interesting, and they have a lot of capabilities, and we're seeing new stuff added. So I think they're really interesting, and it's an interesting way of creating templates, site templates, if you will, in the kind of modern world. So if you have not, even really looked into site designs, you don't even know what I'm really talking about, I'm going to start from there just to help. Basically, a site design is a script that you create, and I'm going to walk you through that, and you run it, and you tie it to a site design, and those appear when you're creating new sites. So basically, when you go to create a new site, and in this specific tenant we have that feature locked down, so I'm going to pull up the admin center over here real fast and I'll show you. So normally I would go to the SharePoint home and create new site, and you can see there that we have that locked down in this tenant, so I just have to go to the admin center to do that. So just give me a second and I can show you. All right. All right, here we go. So the place that you see the site designs as a user would be here. So obviously I'm in the admin center, but if they were creating a site from the SharePoint home, they get prompted with whether it's a team site or a communication site. And actually when you create your site design, there is one thing you put in the script that denotes whether it is a site designed for a team site or it is a site designed for a communication site. Because that really matters because, for example, like with navigation, in the site design you can specify navigation links. So you can say, okay, I want to add, this library to the navigation, I want to add this other link to the navigation. You can set that in your site design. And of course, if it's a team site, that's going to go in what we would consider the quick launch, and if it's a communication site, that's going to go in the top nav. So that's just one of the kind of examples of the difference between them. So if I click team site, and I think there's one in here already I can kind of show. So you'll see here it says choose a design. Now by default there are a couple in here. For team site I think there's just one, just the team site by default. And for communication site by default, there are topic, which is pretty much similar to what you saw on that change of look slide I had, where it's kind of got the hero stuff at the top, and then it's got some web parts underneath. There's showcase, which is very much a big, like just all hero, if you will, just big pictures and text all the way down the page, and it's really, like it mentions here, it's kind of like used to showcase like a product or something like that. And then blank, so you can start with a blank template. So those are the ones that kind of come out of the box. But, of course, companies really need to provide templates for specific things. So that could be you have your employees that they create project sites for some reason. Like there's a very specific type of project, and you have multiple people coming in and they create those sites and they use those sites for collaboration, and they need to have specific lists on those and libraries, things in the navigation, specific columns in those lists and libraries, all that kind of stuff. You can create a site design and then put it here, and you'll see here we actually have one that we were using for some training we were doing. And then when you create that, it will automatically go through and add all those things. So that's kind of where, as a user, that you would see a site design. That's kind of where you're going to go and use it. But I also want to show kind of a little bit about, creating one. So let me start here. And let's see. Oh, and then Zach says, I feel like it's a modern style for the classic view. That could be. I mean, the interesting thing is I was seeing it on modern sites, and on modern sites only, actually. But maybe that's their intention for it, is just to be for the classic view, and that's why I'm not seeing it anymore. Who knows? Alright, so let me go ahead and I'm going to put a couple of links in here because honestly, with this process, these references are extremely helpful and I use them a lot because I am not a JSON expert or developer. So I really needed to kind of figure out a way to learn how to create these site scripts. So the reference that I just put into the chat, this is the site design JSON schema. If you are a developer, you might be able to do even more than what's listed here. But this is something that, if you are like me, more of a power user, then you can still use this and create these things. So what you'll see here is it goes through and explains all of the main things that you can do as site design. So, for example, creating a new SharePoint list. you'll see here that it gives you all the information, and then it gives you an example of what that would look like. So for this, you would see that, like, if you want to create a generic list, this is the num you use. If you wanted to create a document library, events, tasks, etc. And then when you actually create it, you create these, and I know that there's probably like a very fancy word for these things. I guess it's just kind of an action, it says, or a verb. So here you do create SP list, you give it a name, and then you choose what template type it is. Once again, that's like this list here. So they've done a really good job at documenting this, so it's actually pretty easy. And then on a specific list, you can do sub-actions. You can actually set the description of the list, and some more important sub-actions as we get a little bit lower here would be like to add columns to the list or library, and that's pretty important. And it gives you all the examples of that. And then as you scroll down, we get to add SP field, and this would be adding columns to your list or library. And here you can go ahead and create all kinds of different columns. The simple ones that they do, which is just this example right here. You could do a text, note, number, Boolean, user, date and time. If you want to do choice, or I think it's even, lookup is even more advanced, but if you want to do like choice, then that's the add SP field XML. And I'm going to show you an example of that in my script I'm going to run. So that is for like a choice field. And then you even have the ability, which I played with a little bit and actually got to work really well, you have the ability to even add a lookup field. So if you have lists where you need one list to look up to another, and you don't want to have to make your users figure out, like for whatever reason they're just end users, and you don't want them to have to try to go in and create lookup fields, you can actually go ahead and create that stuff in the site design, and it does it for you. And like I said, it works really well. I was surprised, to tell you the truth. I think the first time I ran it, I was like, oh, it's probably not going to work, and it worked perfectly. So that was really, really good. Add site columns, so you can even do things like that. Views, so you can create specific views for those lists and libraries. You can remove specific views. You can get into things like content types. You can even do the custom formatter for the fields, like the actual custom formatter that Laura's gone over a few times in other Power Hours. You can even set that stuff up in here, and it will apply those things. I have not done that yet. As we scroll down, you can do site columns, content types. It talks about that again. And that's actually just earlier when it mentions that it's talking about like adding the site column to a library or list, and this is actually how you can like create a site column or content type actually with the site design, have it create those things. So you can create them and then have it apply those things to the list or library, which is pretty neat. And then we get into navigation links, adding and removing. So removing is really cool to think about because sometimes I get people wanting to remove like the notebook link that's on there, or maybe they want to remove the link to site contents. So you have the ability to do that as well. Applying a theme. So this one right here, there's a gotcha with this, and that's something I actually want to look at if we have time. But applying a theme, you only can apply custom themes. And it does say this. I did not read that when I was trying it. And then I came back and I was like, oh, it actually told me right there that I can only do custom themes. So I actually was trying to apply just like the gray theme that you guys saw me apply in the Change the Look demo. And it wouldn't let me do that. So you can only apply things that are custom. So you would have to use that theme generator and add that in and all that kind of stuff, and you can only do that. And then you can use that custom theme, you can apply that in your site design script. Something I want to try though, I was curious, since I couldn't do that, I was curious if it was a hub site. So like if I had a hub site and I joined this new site I'm creating to that hub site, if it would pick up a out-of-the-box theme. So that was something I was interested to try. And I think if we have time, I'll do that. Because you'll see down here that one of the actions is joining a hub site. So you can actually have the site design automatically join your new site to a hub site. And so I wanted to see like if that hub site had just a generic SharePoint theme, would it automatically apply that way? So that's kind of one way to do it. So that's interesting. Hopefully we'll have some time to see that. Setting a site logo, install an add-in or solution, register an extension. That gets a little bit more into the custom stuff. Even triggering a flow. So that's something that's kind of neat, because you could trigger a flow to do additional things to the site that you may not be able to do with the site design. So something to keep in mind. Like it said here, you could either do like something like register an extension and do some of the developer stuff with it, or if you're not a developer, you might be able to get a flow to kind of take care of other things that you need that they might not have as options here. Configure regional settings, add users to SharePoint groups. As you can see, manage guest access. So a lot of different options to utilize when creating your site designs. So before I take a look at one that I've created that I'm going to run through the process with you guys, do you have any questions about any of this stuff? And while I wait for you to add those in, I will go ahead and pull up a site script that I have created. And I'm going to go ahead and actually, just while we wait for questions, I'm going to go ahead and connect to PowerShell as well, just to cut down on things that you guys have to wait for me to do. Go ahead and do that. And I'm just connecting real quick. All right, so I don't think I see any other questions, so I'll go ahead and jump over here. So this is a site script that I have created. And I am really bad at the vocab here, so I want to make sure that I explain this correctly. So basically, the JSON thing that you're using, this is called the site script. So you write the site script, and right on the main page of, like if I go back to where that link I put in there, if you go to get started, you'll see just kind of like a very small example of a site script. So you can copy that and use that to kind of get started. And here, this is the site script. Oh, it looks like I have a question. So Todd asked about the homepage, configuring the homepage with specific web parts. That is something that is not there yet. So there are ways of doing that where you could, I think it was, and I could be saying this wrong, but I'm pretty sure when we looked into it, it was like getting a flow to fire another PowerShell script, like a PMP script that would do that for you. So like you could have that PMP script add the web parts to the homepage. And we worked on that a little bit, and I think that is something that you can get to function. I think I worked on that with one of our team members. We tried that out and we were able to get that to function a while back. But that's not something that's built in just to this list of JSON actions right now. So it's either something that you would use the SP framework stuff and do it that way, or like I said, basically fire off another PowerShell script that could add the web parts to the homepage for you. So there is a way to do it, it's just not, it's a little bit more convoluted, if you will. It takes a little bit of extra step. And that's something that I can go through. If you guys are interested in that, I can circle back, figure out exactly what that script was, and then kind of show you guys what that would look like. So I'll put that down as an idea for a future session. Okay, so basically this is what the site script looks like, and I will walk you through everything that I'm doing in this site script. So the first verb or action, I am creating a SharePoint list called projects, and I am giving it a description, and then here I'm actually adding fields. So here I'm adding a start date, date time field. I am adding a completion date time field, a project summary, which is just text, a region is just text. In this situation it is. Obviously that might be choice otherwise. Office, and department. And then down here I actually have you can see this is add SP field, and then I switch over and I'm adding SP field XML because I actually need a choice field. So here I just pulled this right from that link that I gave you, and I just kind of went in and filled it in with my information. So here I have the display name, whether it's required, the format, if it's a drop-down or not, static name, there's a lot of camel in here. And then you actually have the choices, and you fill those in here. And the best thing to do, like I said, is to copy what they have, and then just kind of fill in the things that are specific to your site. And then it goes through the choices, so it was not started, in progress, and completed. And then that field, that kind of creates that field and gives me those choices. And then next, that's the end of that one. The next thing it does is it creates a task list. It does a description, it adds some fields, just as we talked about, another choice field, and then it does a lookup field. And this is actually where I set the lookup. So you'll see there, display name of the lookup is project. That's basically just the regular field. And then it even has that, like, if you see in a lookup, there's like the relationship thing. The relationship, when you're setting up a lookup column, there's like a choice about relationship for deleting. And you can actually set that, which is pretty neat. So you set that, and then you specify what the target list name is. And you have to be very careful here. Now, what's cool about this, just so you guys know, I am creating this list just before I create this lookup. So above, I was creating the projects. And then here in the task, I'm adding a lookup to that project. So it doesn't have to be something that's already existing. It can be. It doesn't have to be. But that's something that I can do there. So I'm specifying, from this task list, I want to look up to the projects list and pull this. And I think I'm pulling the title. You'll see show field, and I'm pulling title. So you can even specify the field. And I'm sure, I have not tested it out, but I'm sure this is one of those situations where you're going to have to get like the field name, the actual field name, like the, what do they call that? Like not just like the field name where it has like spaces in it, but like the actual field name behind the scenes. And what you can do there is just go to that column setting, like click on that column in your list settings, and then if you like hover over it, I think it has the field name in the URL, so you can pull that and put that in there. And then here, I'm creating this is a document library. You'll see the template changes, and then it has some of its own columns there. And then finally, I'm keeping this simple. I'm just adding, I close that out and finish with all those lists and libraries. And then here I'm adding in the nav links. I'm adding a link to projects, to tasks, and to policies. And then basically what you do is you create, you first take this script, you load it into Powershell, and then you add it as a script. And then you basically take that script and you assign it to a site design. And the site design is the thing that you actually see in the dropdown when you're creating a site. So there's like a two-step process to getting creating a script, adding it as a script in SharePoint, and then tying that script to a site design. Another thing that I want to mention is connecting to Powershell. So I already connected, and I wanted to point this out because I think it would be helpful for you guys to know. Let me grab the link for this. So there is a little bit of a difference in and this is really helpful, especially if you've never done this before. I added a link there, but there is a little bit of a difference in how you connect, whether you are using like, if you're using multi-factor authentication, or if you're just using like regular authentication. And you'll see in that link I just added that there's like two different kind of scripts that you run to connect to your site. So one is for regular authentication, the other one's for multi-factor. So that's just something to keep in mind, that there is a difference there if you have any issues around that. So I've connected. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to grab this script, which you'll see here at the top. I'm adding it this like money or $ site script equals. That's just basically me adding it as a variable in PowerShell. And I'm using the SharePoint Online Management Shell, and I'm going to paste that in there. And that just adds it. So it takes that whole script and it adds it to this variable. And then, just to show you step by step, my next line here is actually going to, and hopefully you guys can see this okay, This next line, and I may not have pasted that right, so I might have to redo it. It's creating the site script, giving it a name. It's saying the content is that variable I created. So the content is that full script. The description, etc. If I run this, we'll see if it works. Yep. It's going to give you, this is really, really important, and this is kind of where it gets a little tricky. It's going to give you an ID, and you have to grab that ID, because you need that ID to associate this site script to a specific site design. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab that, copy it, and I'm going to go down to my next line here, which is actually my site script, my add SPO site design. And this is where I'm taking the script. Okay, I've added the script out there. I've added it to as a SharePoint site script, and now I'm going to take that. I'm going to connect it to a site design. So it actually will show up in the drop-down menu when they go to create a site. So here, add SPO site design. The intranet department is the name. That's its name. 68. The web template 68. That's saying that it's a communication site. And I'm going to give you guys a link to see those things in a second. And then the ID for the site script, and then the description. So I go ahead and add that. And it goes ahead and it creates it. So now here's something I want to say. You're done for this part. You've actually created the site design. We can go out there, we can use it. But what I would recommend is grabbing the ID here, because if you ever need to remove this, you're going to need this ID. And of course, you can run commands to like get all the SPO site designs and then get your IDs that way. But it might just be helpful to kind of keep those just so you don't have to do that. And the reason I do that, I'm going to paste it down here because I actually have this remove SPO site design if I wanted to clean it up or get rid of it later. I have that ability, so I just paste that down here. So it might, like I said, you don't have to, because you can run a PowerShell command. Let me give you the links to those in a second. To get all of your site designs and see their IDs, but it might just be helpful to grab it just so you have it, especially if you're like me and you like to document everything. Alright, so let me grab this link because it has some of that stuff in there. So I'll put another link out there. And this link, actually, these are all the site design commandlets. So like I said, the adding the site design and site script, and then the get SPO site design. So that would be, like I said, how you would get your IDs later if you needed them. Also, what's out here is removing site design rights. So you can go in here and specify that, like right now when I just ran this, that site design is available to anybody who hits create site in my environment. If they can hit create site, then they're going to see that option. They're going to see that intranet department as an option. If I want to limit that, I would have to run these extra, the grant SPO site design. I would have to run that and then specify a user or a group, and then only they would see that in the dropdown. And it's a real simple. It's another script that's pretty simple. And as you can see here, it's like pretty straightforward, right? You just basically have the ID of the site design, the group or users, and then the rights that they have to it. All right. So let me see here. Let's go ahead and create one of these, right? That's what we're here for. So I'm going to go back to, let's see if I have that open on another screen. Go back out here to create a site from the new site design, so bear with me in this just for a second. And I saw there's some questions, so I'll answer those in just a second. Alright, so now I'm creating a site. I click communication site. If everything went okay, I should now see this intranet department as an option. So there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just call it Power Hour Demo. Hopefully Laura hasn't used that already somewhere. And I'm going to go ahead and make myself a site owner. And I'll go ahead and create this. So hit finish. Give it a second. It will take a minute to get this created, especially with the speed I've been having today. All right, let's see. Does content types and taxonomy fields configured using site script? So content types, yes. I have to see about manage metadata. I have not played with manage metadata. I know that there's nothing. It might be in the add SP field XML. There might be a way to do that, but I would probably have to just try it out and see. So I can test that out at a later time and then maybe do a demo for that. I don't think my guess is probably going to be that it would have to be something custom to get like the manage metadata stuff, but I could be wrong. It says, for the fields in the list in your script, are those all custom fields, not site system fields? Yes, those were custom fields that I was creating, to answer your question, Beth. And can all these commandlets be wrapped in a flow? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like as far as like if the can a flow, yeah. Let me know what you're asking there, Naveen. All right, so what I will see now that I've created the site is it tells me the site design has been applied. Refresh the site to see changes. Now, I think I was probably answering questions, but sometimes if it's actually in process, you can see it will like allow you to click that, and then over here on the right-hand side, you'll get to see it run through all of those steps, runs through as it changes and adds those things. So if I refresh here and let it think about it, you'll now see that up here in the navigation, I have projects, I have tasks, I have policies. So if I go to projects, I'm just going to add one real quick just to show. Oh, this is very slow today. I know why, but it's still annoying. And we'll just call it Real Creative Test Project. I'll just leave all those. Just leave them all blank. We'll say in progress. Just to get it created. Oh, I should have showed you I know what I should have done. Yeah, that's it. I must not have added that to that navigation. Alright, so there's projects. I go to tasks. I'm just showing you the lookup real quick. And now if I were to create a task, so slow, and I look at the project column, which remember was a lookup, I can see that the option test is there. So as you can see, lookup is functioning. So that's very cool. And then it added all of those things to the navigation as well. So really neat and really easy to use. Like I said, once you kind of go through and get your script kind of written and created, actually getting it out there is not very hard, and it's very easy from an end user perspective to apply that and get that going. So that is that part of it. So another thing that I wanted to show is in, let's see, where's that one commandlet thing? That's the PowerShell commandlets. All these sites load up for me. So, kind of circling back, bringing it all back to change the look. The change the look and the site actions menu updates, there is now a site designs link there that you will see, whether it's in the site actions menu that I have or the new one that you've seen screenshots of. So previously, if we had a site and we wanted to push a site design to it. So let's say this site's already been created. We've now created these site designs, and we want to like add those things to an existing site. We would have to run. There is an invoke SPO site design. It's a pretty easy little script to run, but we would have to run that in order for that to happen. Luckily, they have actually added that, and this is what I hope they continue to do, so we don't have to depend on PowerShell so much as power users. But what I hope they do is to add these things to the actual web interface. So now instead of having to run invoke here, I can actually go, here's a change the look to, this is one of the sites I just created. This has none of that stuff, right? But I can actually go, hopefully, to site designs here. And then that's from Inside Actions menu. And I can choose Intranet Department. And I can go ahead and you'll see here what's really neat is it actually lists all of the stuff that I'm doing in my site script. So this is what I was talking about where you can actually kind of see it run through that process. So you'll see all the things that it's doing in my site design, which is really nice because if you are applying this to an existing site, it's good to know what you're getting, right? So if you're just, if you're blindly doing that, you may want to know exactly what you're gonna get when you do this. So I'm gonna go ahead and click Apply to Site. And it's going to run through, sometimes, especially with my speed today, it's probably going to take a few minutes to get through that. But it's going to run through that and add all of those things to this site. So, what's really cool there, we don't have to, for that part at least, we don't have to depend on PowerShell. We can do that right inside of the browser. So that's pretty neat. Alright, so I'll let that run. I'll show you guys when it's done. Let's see. Alright, so the one thing that I probably won't have time since we're getting to be about 1 o'clock now, I didn't have time to get to is the hub site piece. So I think I'm going to save that and do that in another session, maybe just like tack it on to the one of Laura's upcoming sessions, Power Hours. And really what I want to do there is I want to see if I have a hub site that uses, one of these other themes like gray or purple, and things like the mega menu nav and the footer and all these different like new things, the header settings. I want to see if I use a site design that will basically attach my new site to that hub site, if it will pick up all of those things. So if it will pick up the footer, if it picks up the navigation changes, I want to see if it does all of that. So didn't have enough time to do that today, but I will do that next time around. So if you guys are interested to see if that test works, I can definitely do that for you and walk through that, and guys get a good idea how that would function for you as you use these things. So here, as you can see, it ran through. We go ahead and do View Updated Site. Let that refresh, and we should see those new lists and libraries have been added. Think about, there they are. So yeah, that is an overview. Like I said, site designs has kind of changed a little bit. There's some new features and a couple more actions, JSON actions that have been added since the last time I demoed this. But some really cool stuff there. Alright, I think that's it. And let me just make sure I got all your links here. I think I did. Alright, so let me know if you guys, I'll be in the chat for a little bit, let me know if you have any questions. In the meantime, let's see if there's any cool IW Mentor stuff to talk about. We do have some cool stuff coming up. So we have a Power Apps and Flow training. I know a lot of people have really wanted Laura to do a Flow class. She is doing one, yay! It's in April. And we're working hard on getting that class all awesome for you guys. So that's coming up. We also have a new offering, something that I'm working on with workshops, like a workshop. So we have this modern, I'll add a link here to it, this modern SharePoint Bootcamp. And the whole idea behind this bootcamp is just to give you guys the ability to kind of get some help understanding and kind of plan around how to use these things, like using site designs. How do I use site designs? How do I build this, site template that I have now? How do I make that a site design? How do I use hub sites?